Hi everyone, to this online training. I'm really looking forward to facilitate this session on online security, so strengthening your cyber resilience in as a public servant, as a high-risk user, working in Africa's public sector. We've promoted this training together with UNECA and Google across many different countries. So I'm glad to see such a good turnout from a variety of different countries. Before we start with the training, I'm really pleased to pass to colleagues and to offer some introductory remarks. And first of all, we're here joined by Mr. Afewerk Temtime, Economic Affairs Officer, Technology, Innovation, Connectivity, and Infrastructure Division from UNECA. Thank you so much for joining us and for your remarks. Over to you.
Thank you. Greetings, everyone. On behalf of Dr. Maktar Sek, who is the Chief of Emerging Technologies, Innovation and Digital Transformation here at TCA, I would like to, who was not able to join us today because of other commitments, I would like to join you, to welcome the webinar, which we are organizing in partnership with Google Safety Engineering Center and Possible Digital. As you all know, these days, cybersecurity is a concern, an issue by everyone, governments, civil society, private sector, academia, and even the general public. And a lot of effort is being done to address this issue in driving the digital transformation agenda in the continent. ECA, here at ECA, we are supporting member states in addressing this issue through various mechanisms, particularly on support on digital transformation strategies at the national level, through regional and global frameworks like, the AU Digital Transformation Strategy, and also the WSIS plus 20 process and Global Digital Compact. We are involved in quite a number of related activities in this regard. I would like to mention just a few. The first one being the Africa Cybersecurity Center, Research Center that we have established in Togo, in collaboration or partnership with the government of Togo, which undertakes research on cybersecurity and some capacity building activity as well. And also the other one is we also develop model laws, guidelines to model laws on cybersecurity, which will help governments in formulating national cybersecurity laws and regulations. And the other one is, of course, raising awareness and capacity building, the similar programs that we are undertaking today. It is in this context and in the context of the cybersecurity awareness month, we have been organizing a series of events like this one to raise awareness on cybersecurity. And this particular session that we are organizing with Google Safety Engineering Center and Possible Digital is aiming at raising awareness and demystifying cybersecurity in a very simple and practical way, particularly for public sector workers. I hope you would enjoy and we all benefit out of this session. And we are in good hands of the facilitator of this session, Sinan. And I will leave the floor to you to start the session. And I thank you again, all the participants who have joined this session and also our partners in delivering this training. Thank you. Over.
Thank you so much. And yes, looking forward to starting the training. But before we do that, we have one more introductory remark by Princilia. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Sinan and Afe Work. It's a pleasure to see everyone, distinguished colleagues from the UN Economic Commission for Africa, our Google Safety Engineering Center, Possible Digital, and most importantly, you all, the participants who are on this call. I'm seeing 80 participants. This is a big deal from all across the continent, Ethiopia, different countries, Kenya here. We're very excited that you all could join us today to have this particular discussion on cybersecurity. My name is Princilia Boagay, and I am Google's head of Pan-African institutions. I lead our collaboration with the UN Economic Commission for Africa, which is co-hosting this training today. And I'm delighted to be joining you virtually from our offices in Nairobi, Kenya, for this crucial dialogue. Google's commitment to Africa's digital transformation is deep and enduring. Our collaboration with ECA is about 2 years old right now, and it is one of our most strategic and vital partnerships on the continent. This partnership is anchored in a shared vision for a digitally empowered and secure continent built upon key pillars that include digital infrastructure, data-driven innovation, capacity building, and cybersecurity. We are immensely proud of the concrete successes achieved through this strategic cooperation. And a prime example of that is our joint work around AI skilling. We deliver these trainings to public officials around AI, and we've delivered it to hundreds of public officials this year. We're glad that you could participate in this cybersecurity portion as well. And we also offer training and tools to students across the continent. Some more than 9,000 students have benefited from our AI and robotics training. Google itself is invested in infrastructure in Africa through major subsea cables, a cloud region that we have in South Africa. We're contributing to innovation in AI through our 2 AI research centers, one that is in Ghana and one that is in Kenya, and our partnership initiatives with institutions, universities across Africa that ensure that African nations can leverage technology to leapfrog development challenges and create inclusive prosperity. So today we pivot our attention to the critical pillar of cybersecurity. So your presence here confirms an understanding that digital security is not just the domain of the IT department of the institution you work in, right? It is a core responsibility for everyone. And as a former public official, I definitely understand the fact that you are high risk targets, right? Because of the sensitive and classified information you may be handling on your accounts and devices, which increases the sophistication of threats. But our goal today is not to scare you. We don't want to do any fear mongering. We just really want to have a practical, a non-technical dialogue and training with you where we demystify cybersecurity to make sure you're comfortable with some concrete tools and measures you can take to protect yourselves, the institutions and governments that you serve. So this is part of our shared commitment to foster cyber resilience across Africa. We do this through capacity building and skills development, one of which you're participating in today, developing strong, responsible AI frameworks for governments, and offering secure solutions to people across Africa. Your active participation in this training is a crucial step toward building a more cyber resilient future for your organization and the citizens that you serve. So I really want to encourage you to engage fully, ask questions, raise your hands so that you can leave here fully ready to implement immediate and practical security steps, right? Thank you again to our co-hosts here with ECA, GSEC, and Possible Digital for making this a reality today. And I look forward to hearing your feedback about what you enjoyed about the course, or if you'd like to reach out, I'll put my information in the chat here. Thanks again. Over to you, Sinan.
Thank you so much, Pensilia, for those introductory remarks. And I couldn't have put it better to highlight the importance and critical, nature of talking about cybersecurity, especially as for you as public servants working for citizens across the continent in Africa. So let's start with the training. I'm about to share our content again. Let's see. All right. And also, I hope this works for you. So you can see both the content as well as me as the facilitator. So I'm really looking forward to now dive into the topic and talk to you about securing your digital world, cybersecurity essentials. And without further ado, let's start. I'll finish the round of introductions, so to say. So my name is Sinan Akert. I work for Possible Digital. We are a Berlin, Germany-based tech consultancy. So our focus and mission is to bridge innovation and technology with the public sector, both knowing that there is a lot of opportunity where the public sector can gain significantly by leveraging today's technologies, be it AI, be it online services, while at the same time the importance of managing risks and navigating both opportunity and risks out there. And that's what we do. And as one of the projects we're working on is the one we're here today. So we've partnered with the Google Safety Engineering Center. Oh, I think the screen is gone. I'll try again. We've partnered with the Google Safety Engineering Center to offer cybersecurity trainings across Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. So here's a photo from another training we did on site, but I'm really looking forward to be facilitating this one online with you today. I'm also joined by my colleague Niklas Miller, who is also overseeing the chat. So if you have any questions, comments, I already saw some people commenting and being active on the chat. So I really invite you to participate and share your views and questions in the chat, and we'll make sure to cover, I hope, all of them, hopefully most of them, by the end of this training. So let's start. Some context. I'm sure just by the fact that you're here in this training, this is no news to you. Cyber attacks and phishing is on the rise. So can you still see my content? Yes. Okay, good. Thanks.
Sorry. Can you reshare? We're not seeing your content fully.
I don't know why it keeps jumping back. I'm so sorry for this. All right. Now it should work again. This should be no news to you that cyber attacks and phishing is on the rise. So just some headlines here. I'll focus on the third one, that Interpol also sounding an alarm on cybercrime really surging in East Africa amid a digital boom. And this is no surprise with digital transformation, with digital services being more prominent and popular. Of course, also criminal and cyber attacks make use of this opportunity, and even more so, it's important to know how to navigate these risks. Next, what's a look specifically for Africa? So here's some figures from some reports to give you some context as well. Cybercrime accounts right now for over 30% of all reported crimes in both Western and Eastern Africa. Phishing, ransomware, business email compromise being some of the top threats. Scam notifications have been rising like crazy in some of the African nations. And also the fact that, and this is perhaps a different scenario in Europe or in the US and other contexts, it's a mobile first user behavior, and that being a primary access point also for cyber attacks. Lastly, bring your own device. A common culture in workplaces also poses some organizational risks that you should be aware of. And I invite you to think of this training, even though you might join in a work context. I invite you to think about it also with regard to and apply the recommendations that we discussed today, not only to your work life, but also to your personal devices, because that's also a common entry point for attackers. Now, Why is it relevant? I've specifically for you as public servants, we know that. Sorry, I'm just seeing the chat here that it stopped working.
No, we could see the presentation. It worked out, I think.
Oh, okay. Yeah, is it working now?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. Why are you specifically targeted as public servants? Prancilia already mentioned you have access to information, to services, to systems, but also there is an increase of politically motivated cyber incidents. And especially since 2020, we see a global rise of attacks that have a political dimension. Now, messages like these might seem very similar to you. So this is a common M-Pesa scam trying to enable a SIM swap. So a common attack scheme. You might have seen this or similar attempts at M-Pesa or also similar services that really target your critical sensitive information and exploit and overtake your accounts and SIM cards. What we will cover in this training is 3 blocks. One is we will discuss common threats. Second is we'll introduce very easy steps to protect yourselves. And then thirdly, we'll discuss some of the advanced security measures which are specifically recommended for you as high risk. So as a public servant, you are regarded as a high risk individual, and there are specific services and also possibilities and methods to protect yourselves that we'd like to highlight as part of this training today. Starting with the common threats. So I'd like to start always this section with, saying, I have a bad message for you and I have a good message for you. And the bad message is cybersecurity awareness and also protection is not something that you can outsource to your IT department. It's not something that someone else can solve for you. But then also there's a good part of the story, which is you are not left powerless. There are various different protection measures out there that are available to you. And while we wait for the good side of the story, we start with the bad side. So your responsibility to be aware and also apply that as an individual, that responsibility, apply that to your individual behavior. There are 3 critical dimensions that I would like to highlight here that are critical for your online security. That is, first of all, the security that comes through our actions as users. So our humans, the human factor, so to say, in cybersecurity. Secondly, is the security in our online accounts, for example, for emails, for collaboration, other forms of online account protection, online account security, where different providers offer different defaults and possibilities to protect your online accounts. And third one is the security of our devices and software. So speaking about updates and how well maintained the security updates are on both your devices and software. And let's keep these 3 different dimensions in mind when we talk about the different threats and protection measures. So we've brought a security framework that is specifically applicable for you as exposed users. Now, this is a lot of information. We won't be covering everything that is here. We will focus on some of the aspects which are most relevant to you as public servants, and also on the protection side, which are most actionable and easy to implement for you as an individual user. And with that being said, I continue with the common threats discussion and specifically introducing the topic of phishing messages and websites. Now, what is phishing? I'm sure many of you already know what phishing is, but for those who may not, I'm gonna just start at the start with a definition. Phishing is a form of cybercrime where attackers impersonate a trusted entity to obtain sensitive information. For example, login credentials or financial data if it's for a financial purpose. And there are different methods that cyber attackers use as part of phishing attempts. And these methods oftentimes include either or and a combination of visual confusion, so pretending something that they're not, as well as emotional persuasion, so emotional factors, with the goal to use information for criminal practices or to steal money, for example. And here I'd like to open the discussion. Maybe you can write in the chat. What do you think, what percentage of online attacks starts with phishing? I'd be very curious to see what you guys think. Maybe you can write your estimates in the chat, and I'll open the solution in a second. 50%. We have one 97%. That's close to 100. That's a lot. What do other people think? What percentage of online attacks start with phishing? 70%, 75%. All right. So there's a tendency already to estimate the share of phishing as quite high. So ranging from 70%, 50% as the lowest to 97% as the highest. So this is indeed already going into the right direction. When we look at the numbers, generally, it's important to realize that there is a lot of spam out there. So 45% of all emails sent globally, for example, here a number from 2023, were spam. Of course, not all of these emails were phishing attempts, but the numbers show that 79%, and that's the solution here, of successful account takeovers in 2023, according to this report, started with a phishing attack. So thank you so much for your estimates, already going into the right direction. Now, what is more, and I think this is a very critical information, within the same report, so within of the 79% of successful account takeovers that started with phishing, 83% overcame a multi-factor authentication. And I think this is a very critical point to which we will return and highlight the fact that not every multi-factor authentication offers the same level of security. So keep that in mind when we discuss multi-factor authentication methods later on in this training. Lastly, I would like to add just a statistic on the damage that is done through phishing. Here we have a number of 3 billion US dollars equivalent stolen by scammers across Africa between 2019 and 2025. So quite a big, financial damage, but even more so important for you as public servants is the non-financial, perhaps political damage that is possible and at risk here for your online, when we in the context of your online security. Now, with these numbers in mind, I would like to run an example by you. And here on the screen, you see an example. So when we talk about phishing, there's two different methods. One is visual confusion and one is emotional persuasion. Here's an example for visual confusion. You see on the left and right-hand side, two very similar looking sites where you're asked to input the second factor authentication code that was sent to your mobile phone. Now, one is real and one is fake. I invite you to take a moment and take a look at the two and think about which one is real and which one is fake. And maybe here I can make it slightly larger so you can see it. Now, I will ask again, and feel free to respond in the chat. Who thinks that the one on the left is fake? So which one is fake? The left. I'm seeing some responses in the chat that says the left one is fake. Who thinks that the one on the right-hand side is fake? All right, we also have some comments in the chat that say, for example, that the right is fake. And for those who said that the one on the right is fake, indeed, you are correct. So the solution is that the one on the left is real and the one on the right is fake. Now, why is that the case, and why were the people perhaps that spotted this correctly also saw that correctly? And here the critical component is to verify the URL. So while the image, for example, that we have on the left side could be a first indication, there is a profile picture in the one, but there's no profile picture in the other. The profile picture alone is not, a strong enough indication of its authenticity. While the URL, so what is the official domain of something? Checking the URL is a very strong indicator of a website being authentic or not. And on the left, we see the domain being accounts.emailonline.com/. So we always want to look between the first two slashes and the one following slash, because that is the domain that we're interested in. And on the right-hand side, we see that it's accounts.emailonline.com.https://com.tk. So this is a very clear indication that the one on the right does not use the authentic real URL. And by virtue of that, that's a strong indicator that the one on the right is actually a scamming attempt. Now, in this case, we have replaced, the email provider company's name with a generic email online logo, but this holds true for your individual email accounts. And there you can also check the authenticity of your email account or whatever other website you're asked to input critical information in. What is the official domain that I'm looking for? So is it dropbox.com? Is it google.com? Is it Microsoft? A quick online search can help you to identify the correct and only authentic URLs that are legitimate and real. Now, let's continue with another example. And this is the example of emotional manipulation. So I'm bringing in not only the visual confusion part of the story, but also the emotions here. Here we see a real scam attempt that has happened in the past. So let's imagine we have a Gmail account and we open the Gmail app and we see this email popping up. So someone has your password, sorry. The sender is at google.support. Seems kind of, legit. I will make it larger again for sure. That seems kind of legit. But again, here, a quick online search on the official domains that Google uses allows you to detect that at google.support is in fact not an official Google domain that is being used. So this is a first indicator that this is actually a phishing attempt. Now, another thing that is important to highlight here is the use of emotions. The red color, someone has your password, you need to act now, are all trying to trigger us and our human behavior by instilling a sense of urgency, fear, but at the same time building trust, by the visual confusion by pretending to be an official Google email. So really being aware of both and this interplay of visual confusion as well as emotional manipulation is helping us to detect and react appropriately to phishing attempts. Now, if we were to sum up the emotional manipulation, we can speak of the urgency, for example, act now or lose out. We can speak about the fear, your account will be closed, about the trust, I am someone you know, and we will speak about this in a second with a further example, as well as, in other contexts, especially if it's more about a financial gain, for example, you've won a prize and you need to act now. So these are some further examples for the emotional manipulation that that scammers use. Now, we have another example. I see the animation here is already giving away that it's a phishing attempt and not a real one, a legitimate. But I invite you. So this is taken from the phishing quiz, which is available online. So after the training and also with colleagues, for example, who have not been able to join this training today, I invite you to participate in the phishing quiz that is available online. Just type in phishing quiz Google, for example. And you'll see this example. And this is a good example because here the detection of whether it's an appropriate URL or not is actually hidden in the link that we're being asked to click. So by hovering over the open button, it allows you to check the URL that you're being asked to click. So in this case, drive-google.com, which is not an official URL of Google. And the same applies to any other emails or links, buttons that you're asked to click. You can hover around them, over them, do a right click with your mouse, for example, if you're on a computer, and you can just check what is the actual link that I'm asked to open, and then verify that it's the appropriate and authentic link, that you're being asked to open. Now, with that being said, I continue with impersonation and credential stuffing. Two more points. Impersonation is a type of a targeted phishing attack. So think of it as an enhanced kind of form of phishing, where I'm not only pretending, or attacker is not only pretending to be a company or an organization, but is actually pretending to be your boss, pretending to be your supervisor and your real supervisor. And this is something to be specifically aware of, as the methods of impersonation are developing fastly, especially in times of generative AI, writing texts professionally, adapting also personal style, etc. So this being deceived by such an email, and here's another example, is something that you should also be very much aware of. The go-to recommendation here is to actually go backwards. So here we have an example where Javier Hernandez, who is a real person or real supervisor, and someone pretends to be Jeff, or someone pretends to be Javier and is asking us for an immediate payment. Now, what's the recommendation on how to react on this? Well, give Javier, so your actual supervisor, a call or an email directly on the normal communications channels that you are using. So instead of responding to this email thread, you could just ping Javier, or email them or call them and just say, hey, Javier, this email you just sent, it seems kind of suspicious. Is that really you, or should I just ignore it, or even report it to our IT department, or other appropriate teams? So I'm just speeding up a bit to have enough time also to speak about the protection here. Credential stuffing, it really it goes to show that it's important to have different passwords for different accounts. Imagine one of your passwords is hijacked. Imagine one of your passwords is compromised. And if you have the same password across all the different accounts, for example, that you have online, online attackers will automatically try the password that they have compromised from you on various different accounts that you have online. So by having different passwords for each account actually minimizes or prevents this automated attack by of attackers who try to use the same password also for other accounts that you have online. Now, this was a lot on the bad side of the story. So now we are turning to the good side of the story. And here I really want to give you the feeling that there are many steps available to you that you can do as an individual user. So not your IT department, not your organization, but things that you can do and learn to protect both yourself, on your work and your personal devices, but also by virtue of protecting yourself, protect your organization. And here I'd like to start with your awareness. So, and your behavior, your user behavior. So we already kind of touched upon some of the recommendations here. And this is really just summing that up. So when we have requests that ask us to, send money, for example, or compromise or share sensitive information, really double check the sender. So as we did in the examples, double check the sender, the URL, the email address, so verifying the domain, and comparing that to publicly available addresses, for example, with the email address or the company's website. Secondly, go the backward channel. So instead of responding to that threat, try to open up a second channel in real life. Call or just go past the person if you're in the same office, or just send a message on a trusted communication channel to the person. So establish the second channel of communication if you're in doubt, if the first kind of email that you got with a specific request is suspicious. And the same applies for a website that you see. So if there's a website that asks you to, insert your bank information, for example, instead of just relying on that website that just popped up on your phone, for example, when you're doing something else, you could also just use online search to open the official website of your bank or whatever online service you're using, and really taking the official channel and the official channel only to insert your personal and sensitive information. And then lastly, as humans, we do mistakes, but we do less mistakes if we slow down and we take a second to actually think about, am I being am I being emotionally manipulated in this setting by the sense of urgency and fear that is being created by the phishing attempt, for example. So slowing down also is a key recommendation to really strengthen our cyber awareness. Now, specifically for you, in countries in Africa, we know that there is a mobile-first, culture. So expect scams via messages, WhatsApp, and in-app browsers. So always open those links in a full browser. Go the backward channel using the official, for example, website. Secondly, we already discussed this as an introductory example. SIM swap is a known regional risk. So do not share the one-time codes and set a change PIN, for example, with your provider if this is available. And thirdly, also always conduct thorough payment checks. So never approve, for example, reversal of bank details from a message alone. And again, only use the official channels, even if you're asked and prompted to do it by a message, for example. Just go to the app, go to the official website, and just see and insert your information there, if at all. Now, we continue with the importance of a good password hygiene and login hygiene. Here, again, we have an activity, and I would like to invite you to share in the chat the order of safety of these 4 passwords that are shown here. So we have 1, password 12, second, a complex password, 3, my boss is a great person, and 4, my pet's name. And I would like to invite you to just type in the order from strongest to weakest in the chat. So for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 4, 3, 2, 1. And then we see if you got the order right and what you think is the strongest. So we already have a first input, 2, 3, 1, 4. 2, 3, 4, 1. 2, 3, 4, 1. All right. I already see you all get the strongest ones right. So it's very clear that, thank you so much for all of the inputs. It's very clear that the first one here, password 12 and my pet's name 1 exclamation mark, are not safe passwords because they lack length, they lack variation in characters, they lack, and with that I mean capital letters and small letters, for example. They lack special characters like a hyphen or a percentage sign. So they're out. Now, when we look at the two strongest ones, and I congratulate you all for getting those right, we see that one is very complex but very safe. So we would probably say, that's the safest one. But I don't know if you guys are geniuses. I am not, so I could not memorize this complex password by myself. So even the best password, if is useless if we cannot memorize it. We'll get to password manager in a second. But we want to also avoid a certain security fatigue by making it too complicated for us. So security really needs to be at the sweet spot of being complex, but also being easy enough for us to actually do it and for us to have different passwords, for example. And here, the third one here on the list, so my boss is a great person, is a good example because it turns a password into a passphrase. So something very long, so many characters, many different special characters by turning simple letters into numbers or signs, and thereby increasing complexity while maintaining something easy for us to remember. So this is a primary recommendation if you're not using a password manager. Go for a passphrase, make it long, make it complex, and use a lot of variation. And between your accounts, you can easily just change my boss is a great person to my cat is a great person, for example. And thereby also making variations between accounts very easily navigatable for you as a user. Now, that said, of course, the first one is the strongest one on the list here. And here we turn to the power of password managers. So by using password managers, you are actually able to store all your passwords securely in one place, but also to have an automatically generated password with extra security. And then just having to remember that one master password that has to be very secure. So here's a recommendation to really opt for password managers that make your security posture in total much better because it allows you to have more complex and more variations of passwords while only having to remember one of them. Now, one last note on the password and login safety. A critical point here is also the multi-factor authentication. So adding a second factor, and we'll get to that in a second. But first of all, let me finish on just a quick remark on your device and system security. So antivirus software, I'm sure you're all aware, detects and blocks malware. So recommendation to run antivirus on your devices. Secondly, system and software updates, a very critical component. And we'd like to think of updates in terms of cool new, fancy new features that come to our devices, that come to our apps, that come to our software that we use. But most importantly, updates are not only about cool, fancy features, but in the background, they are also about very critical security updates. And by making sure that your computers and mobile phones are up to date and that the apps are up to date, you make sure that the latest security updates are also installed. So, and on your devices, and that your security posture is really, state of the art. Lastly, if you want to protect a specific connection to the internet, you can also use virtual private networks, VPNs. But now we turn to the very important aspect of the training, which is the advanced security that is specifically available to you as public servants, as someone working in the public sector with access to critical information or critical systems. So it's important to think about these advanced kind of offerings, which are still easy to use. So let's get into that. Now, as I already mentioned before, multi-factor authentication is a critical step in really upgrading your login safety. But it's more so, it's important to realize that not every multi-factor authentication method offers the same security protection. So in this diagram, you can see that there's a range of MFA methods that you're probably aware of. So mobile push notifications, one-time passwords through an authenticator app, one-time passwords sent by an SMS, for example. These are important basic security protections, and they are better than no MFA at all. But in the case of a SIM swap, for example, and you use an SMS code as an MFA method, actually, these are phishable. So you really, as a high-risk user, you want to think about the strongest forms of multi-factor authentication, and these are security keys and passkeys. What do these do? Security keys and passkeys, put simply, they will add a physical component to your login process. This physical component can either be a physical USB stick that has an NFC functionality, so you can also use it with your phone, for example, or even easier to use, you can install a passkey on your personal trusted device. So it really saves an encrypted key on your phone or on your trusted computer, and making it required for you to really confirm on this physical device that you are the one who is logging in. So if there's someone else trying to log in and compromise your account from elsewhere, that attacker does not have your device or the security stick, they will not be able to access your account. So even if they have your password, because they've managed to manipulate you, and they've been successful with the phishing attempt, even then, with passkeys and the physical and the security keys, they will not be able to access and compromise your account. How do they work? Very simple. You set them up once. So you go to the multi-factor authentication settings, for example, in your account. So this is, you generate a key, and then you choose whether you want to use a security key for storing this as a physical component, or if you want to save this key on a trusted and compatible device. And then once you log in, you have your email and you have your two factors. And these two factors can, for example, be your password and the passkey, but also it could be, for example, the passkey and your biometric sign-in, so your fingerprint if you use it on a phone. So then you could even go passwordless. So there are some options out there. They're very easy to install. They need to be set up once, and then they're ready to use. Lastly, I would like to invite you. So here is the second recommendation that is specific for you as public servants, as high-risk users. I would like to invite you to enroll to advanced security offerings for high-risk users. So there's different platforms and providers offer these. So depending on what you use, if you're a user of Gmail, for example, and Google Drive, the Google Advanced Protection Program might be for you. If you're using Instagram or Facebook, you can sign up for advanced protection. If you're using Microsoft, there's also a program called Account Guard. And by example, I will just mention some of these functionalities. Now, this is for the Google Advanced Protection Program, but similar kind of offerings are included in the other platforms as well. First of all, it's additional login security by making it mandatory that you use a phishing-resistant multi-factor authentication method. Second of all, so it strengthens your login to your account. Second of all, it limits the access of third-party apps to your account. You can link in theory your account with another calendar, for example, or with like a appointment booking, system, something like that. And with advanced protection on, this will only be possible for verified third-party apps. And then thirdly, it offers you some extra functionalities that protect you against malware. So by way of example, an email that comes with a suspicious, for example, attachment, and where, for a standard user, the default kind of protection would just like let it go through because it's an edge case and, the algorithm, so to say, is not sure if it's really scam or not. For advanced protection users, the bar is higher. So the default protections are just made one, tier stricter and more cautious. Now, that being said, I'd like to wrap up, and we're also, running out of time. So I would like to finish this training with 3 top recommendations, and then we turn to some of the questions that you already had in the post in the chat. One is we are humans, we make errors. So let's think before we click. Most attacks start with social engineering. So let's take a moment to verify and just be sure. Secondly, make sure that your online accounts are protected accordingly and that the security defaults, so the advanced protection programs that you're eligible for, are activated. And then thirdly, keep your systems updated. So, updates are not only about cool new features, but they're also about important security, updates in the background. And with that being said, I would like to open 2 things. One is the Q&A, and I would also like to invite you to scan this QR code and give us feedback on this training, because we depend also on your feedback on improving our content and making sure that it's most useful for audiences as you in the public sector. So now I open the Q&A, and thank you for your attention. Now, I don't see a specific question on the chat, but maybe there is also one in the Q&A. Some already responded to. Are there any other questions? So feel free to write in the chat. Now, I don't see any. Now, I see a question on the slides. So we can share certainly the information of the training. So either as part of the slides, as in form of the slides, or as a handout that we have readily available with the key information also, just put together in a most useful format for you. Now, are there any other questions? And again, if not, I would like to invite you to scan the QR code and give us feedback so we can improve further trainings.
Sinan, we have one more question on the Q&A box.
On the Q&A box, yes.
Also, the second question is.
All right. I'm a new user of OneDrive, so that's a Microsoft product. That's why I'm asking if you can help with some information. Now, the scope of this training is not to give, specific instructions for individual use, just to give general security advice. So, we cannot provide more detailed information specifically to you, Hamisu. I'm afraid, at this point. But there's various information also available online, which I hope might solve your situation. Now, a friend has lost his device and unable to log back. Is there any way to recover his account? Now, also there, we would need to. Oh, Niklas, did you have your coming in?
Yeah, the only thing that you can really do about that is to use the account recovery form, where it asks for old passwords and other information that you used in your account before. This is the possibility how you can get back your account there, but this is the only thing you can really do. So use the Google account recovery form. This is the way to go.
Now, there's one more question that I'd like to address. And now we've come at the end of time. So for those who already have to leave, I already thank you for your participation, but we will continue to be answering the questions that are out there. Just in case you have a next meeting or so, you need to move on. I really thank you for your participation. On the questions, so there's a question, are there any risks associated with password managers, with using password managers? This is a great question, and I think a question that many people ask themselves. Generally, we recommend three things when you think about the use of password managers. Make sure you use a good one. So make sure that the encryption, for example, techniques that are offered are end-to-end, that there's a zero knowledge, a so-called zero knowledge architecture. Make sure that it has a good reputation. So, for example, that there are third-party audits of the encryption, of the security setup being done, and also make sure that your login process to the password manager is the best password you could, or passphrase that you could ever think of. So that one master password really needs to be safe. But if that is the case, the overall gain by the password manager on your security is quite significant, because it allows you to easily have highly complex passwords for each individual account that you're having. So this, in total, in sum, this creates a very improved security posture.
Sinan, we have two people who raised their hand, but I believe one has already posted on the Q&A. Maybe I can give the floor to Zagai.
Sure.
Zagai, you can ask your question. Okay, we can go back to the Q&A until Zagai comes back, I hope.
All right. Now there's one more question that I can address. What is encryption and how can it help, as well as how can I safely use public Wi-Fi networks? Well, put very simply, encryption is the code that protects a certain information. The kind of the key that is the key that is programmed to access it. So with end-to-end encryption, for example, it just means that whatever information you put in, it's kind of locked away at the beginning. So end to end, it's locked away at the beginning, then it's transferred, for example, to another device. So if you send a WhatsApp message, for example, and it arrives on the other phone, and only there it is unpacked again. So this is kind of the protection process behind that is the encryption. And it helps by really safeguarding the safety of the sensitive information that is carried or saved. How can I safely use public Wi-Fi networks? For example, through VPNs. Very clear answer. VPNs offer a strong, additional safety layer, especially if you use public Wi-Fis. You can use VPNs to protect your communications and content. What do you think is causing phishing to increase in East and West Africa? Also, thank you, Christina, for this question. First of all, phishing is rising globally. So we stated some of the reports and statistics that are specific to East and West Africa. But before we zoom into that level, just a general observation is that phishing is really increasing everywhere, because also the digital use is increasing everywhere. So this is just a general phenomenon. What is causing phishing in East and West Africa specifically? I think it's a time where, yeah, actually, I cannot answer beyond that.
I have a couple of ideas why this could be. I think one of these, of course, the growing mobile use. So people using their mobile phones. And one thing that is not only specific for East Africa or West Africa is also in general, there's a global very low cybersecurity awareness that just makes this possible to have phishing on the rise. And yeah, I think these are the two main drivers of that, but probably the reality is way more complex than that.
We have one more question from T and also a second one from Miron, the last two.
Right. Let's address those, and then I would say we close the Q&A. How is it possible for WhatsApp to share chat details with law enforcement agencies if the security of end-to-end was implemented? Now, I'm not aware of the specific legislation that you're referring to. I don't know. There might be certain legislation in some countries where providers are asked to where it's made mandatory to disclose certain information at certain contexts, but I'm not able to comment on that. Some trainings suggest to check if a URL starts with HTTPS. Would this help? Yes, this is also a good start. HTTP and HTTPS. HTTPS is a successor, so to say, a bit more safer of an internet standard. So this is a good starting point, but it shouldn't end there. So it's very important to see if the domain is actually authentic. So not if the gateway, is kind of safe, but also if the URL itself is the real one. So for example, if it's Dropbox.com or a Dropbox scam, leading to something else. All right, I think those are all the questions I can answer. And I would like to thank you for your participation. I would like to thank UNECA for organizing this together with the Google Safety Engineering Center and us as Possible Digital. You can learn more about our work at possible-digital.de/en if you're interested in our work. So thank you for participating, and let's bring more technology and safe use of technology into the public sector everywhere in public administration. Exactly. Thank you for the chat.